As always said, there are two sets of people, the oppressors and the oppressed, and in between are the cowards and the hypocrites, which I am.
No matter how tough the challenge, how high the obstacles, we always overcome.
What Nigerians believe now is not about the government. Who can come and salvage us from where we are?
Representing people, Mr. President, my people are on the sea.
I will place economic stability and confidence.
To forget this and at some point we get the news of this minister and the forget this.
As always said, there are two sets of people, the oppressors and the oppressed, and in between are the cowards and the hypocrites.
Thank you for staying with us. Joining me on Open Conversation is Ugochukwu Ifeanyichukwu, a political analyst. Good morning, Ugochukwu, and welcome to Open Conversation.
Good morning, Laurentia. Good morning, Rivers people in Nigeria. Laurentia is a very sober day in my life and the life of my family. Today, 24th of October 2024, marks another, sad day. In the sense that I remember the death of my father.
So sorry
and
about that.
To the sense to which I remember it is also sad in Nigeria that my father worked with the Imo State Civil Service and rose to the rank of Chief Development Officer, which we call the Minister of Public Utilities today, and all the things they put in place, and all his efforts in bettering the loss of the rural community and opening up Imo State, it seems to be worse. So if peradventure my father returns today with other prominent Nigerians who strived to better Nigeria in those days and see where we are today, I wonder what we'll be telling them. So since yesterday I've been thinking and trying to draw comparison in my head, but it is sad that it is incomparable. We have gone back more than 50 years to what they strived to lay down the time the rents were.
All right. Do accept my condolences, Ifeanyi.
Thank you.
All right. And on to the story. Edo State government on Wednesday said the outgoing governor, Godwin Obaseki, will present a detailed handover note to the incoming government of Senator Monday Okpebholo despite boycotting of the Joint Transition Committee's meeting by the team of the All Progressive Congress. ATN reports that the Edo State Commissioner for Communication and Orientation, Chris Nehikare, stated this at a press briefing in Benin City. According to him, the incoming governor, Senator Monday Okpebholo, will receive a detailed handover note from Governor Godwin Obaseki. He said, also on the e-governance platform, which is in the office of the governor, all financial transactions, all bank statements, all last financial accounts, and every single thing is accessible on e-governance in the office of the governor dashboard. This is the first time a government will be transiting from one political party to another in the state. So I don't think any APC government has ever done this in the state. They are now assuming a new role of being an inquisitor. We will not allow them to be an inquisitor. The transition committee is not the incoming governor. They are just committee whose duty it is to come and verify projects and verify what we have done. That is the standard practice all over the world, he said. He added that 90% of what the APC committee is asking for is all contained in the documents presented to them. The commissioner, who said the outgoing governor, Obaseki, would only hand over to the governor-elect, Senator Monday Okpebholo, noted that the duty of the transition is to only verify the documents and data presented to them and not to assume the position of the governor. He said the state government asked the APC and the governor-elect for a list of its transition committee because it was a civilized thing to do when an outgoing government is leaving power to hand over to the incoming government. When you are handing over power, it is just the instrumentality of power, but everything you have done while you are in office to showcase to the incoming government what you have done, for it to have an idea of the achievements and at times the challenges the government faced while it was in power. They refused to look at the documents and the projects we had done because they were overwhelmed with the documentation, pictures, facts, and data. Instead of them facing the issue of transiting, they turned the issue of inquisitor. They are asking questions that only a chief executive can pass on to the next chief executive. Everything they have asked for, we have them in all documents we are presenting to them. The listed 24 items, they want us to attend to as if they are the ones dictating to the transition team. Edo State government does not take orders or instructions from members they brought in to come and do transition committee work, he added. Etienne recalls that APC Transition Committee members on Tuesday said they would be boycotting the joint meeting of the committee if the Edo State government did not provide it with the documents demanded from it. The spokesperson of the committee, Patrick Kariale, also urged the state government team to make documents available to it 24 hours before the sitting time so that they would have the opportunity to read through the documents. Ugochukwu, what do you make of this story? Initially, you know, when Edo State government came out and asked Obeblo to come up with a list of transition team and have a meeting with them at a scheduled date, you know, I was elated and I'm like, okay, this is democratic. This is what it should be. This is applaudable. Irrespective of the fact that Obaseki feels very differently about the outcome of the elections, yet he was willing to, you know, peacefully transit from his government to that of the APC.
Of course, he has no option.
but now, I mean, these issues are coming up. What do you make of this development in Edo State?
It is very common now that everything Nigerians play politics with it. I mean, this shouldn't elicit any squabbles. It shouldn't elicit any infractions or wrangling as it concerns the transition committee. This is just a political exercise. It is just a committee that is not even backed by any constitution. It is just friendship agreement, like a gentleman's agreement, so to say. We have had governors in Nigeria that didn't even, you know, follow these rudiments or this due process in handing over. Still, the government that took over functioned. We also had that in Nigeria, when governments come into power, they say they mean empty treasuries. But when they are doing the transitional committee, they did not raise alarm that they are being handed over empty treasury. So what I'm seeing in what Nigerians do, as in quote, the transitional committees, is just a time for the incoming government and the already outgoing government to, you know, use that little window to also compensate their foot soldiers. It is a time they also make appointments to those that hitherto have not benefited from the so-called appointments. And you know, Nigerians and the way they like acronyms, somebody will now tag his name, former member transition committee, so time. This is Nigeria for you. So the way I look at it, it should have been a family affair, so to say, knowing fully well that the essence of the meeting is what the commissioner have said, to know the challenges and what has been done by the outgoing government, which is also glaring to the incoming, because they are all citizens of Edo State and they are domiciled in Edo State. So the essence of this particular transition committee, if you look at how elaborated it is, you could not even remove the fact of what I've stated, that it is a time to just bring their friends and cronies and political associates together. Peradventure, those that will not serve in the commissioner nominees and all that, they will be members of the transitional committee. So it is a time that the APC and the Obebelos camp will understand that this is a time for them to get acquainted with what is called liability and assets of the state. And also there is a meeting that will be held by the governor outgoing and incoming, where those executive, the office secrecy, those classified documents will be handed over to the governor. So this APC committee...
Could it be what they are demanding,
no.
that this Edo State Government Transition Committee is saying that there are certain documents that will be handed over from the governor to the governor-elect, and instead of focusing on the documents being given to them,
yes.
they are now playing the role of an inquisitor, which means they are not dwelling more on the documents, because they said the documents presented to them included what they have been able to achieve so far,
what they have done,
and the challenges and all of that. But apparently they have more interests, probably, and they are insisting that they are not, they cannot inquire that kind of information. That information is at the behest of the governor, which they have said is detailed in the dashboard inside the governor's office, and that Obaseki would hand over that sensitive or classified information to the governor-elect. But then the APC Transition Committee is saying that they are boycotting the transition meeting until and unless the Edo State Transition Committee hands over those documents or whatever it is that they are asking of them.
Funny enough, Nigerians like the rhetorics and the usage of language.
Right.
I read there that the chairman of the committee said that they are
which of them, Edo State
or from the APC,
right.
Is saying that they are withdrawing from the meeting sine die. It's become really laughable. When I saw it, I laughed. I said, wow, politicians and the usage of words. How could they just a committee that even if they didn't sit, the transition will go on? So this is just a road show, because whether that committee is set or not, the transition come on the day of transition. Obaseki will exit, and the Obebelo will come in. So it is insignificant. That's why I said it's just a political exercise, just to rub minds and meet friends. So, but if APC committee is asking for the documents they ought not to ask for, that means they are not properly schooled of what the committee is all about and what the transitional committee should be looking into. You understand? They are not schooled, because my father and my mom served as civil servants, and when I was still in secondary school, I knew what they call office secrets. Even where we schooled, you know that there are some certain informations that shouldn't get to certain people. It does not mean that you are denying them or you're lying to them, but for the fact they are not in position to know, you cannot relate such information to them. So what I'm seeing is that APC in their usual way is playing politics. They want to play politics with everything. They want just to escalate and make noise and demean the person of Obaseki the more. Obaseki now is like a drowning man, and then APC is trying to rub it to his face that we told you, so to say. So what they are saying is they just want to grab the headlines, achieve cheap media publicity, and those things is that at the end of the day, it has shown you the leg of what Obaseki will face. Obaseki will be caught with the fallout of Obaseki with his strange deputy governor, the person of Philip Shaibu, the cross-carpeting of Dan Obi and most of the political PDP bigwigs, and the indifference and the irreconcilable differences between Obaseki and his estranged godfather Adams Oshomole. And it is a payback time for Adams Oshomole to draw his blood from his being ousted as the chairman of APC, these are unforgivable sins that Obaseki has committed. So Obaseki will definitely have his days with EFCC, whether he presents A to Z, because they still want to drag his name. We know at the end of the day, it might not, nothing may happen, but they want to demean and demolish Obaseki's clout. You could see why I'm telling you that nothing will happen. You recall that in his sarcastic way, the former Ekiti State Governor, in the person of Ayo Fayose, even after handing over, went immediately to EFCC wearing a branded T-shirt and said, EFCC, here I come, with his mat and his foot flags, ready to spend the night. And you could also see the funny and dramatic way that the case of, what do you call it, Yaya Bello is going. So this is to a sense that Obaseki at the end of the day, if he can act one drama in Nigeria, his cases, because their immunity seems to be ad infinitum. They don't leave office and live without immunity. This is the irony of the whole thing. You have served you recall 2 days ago, there is a president of one country that has been convicted of 20 years imprisonment for the infractions he committed while he served. So, but in Nigeria, you won't see such thing. So what I'm saying is that whether Obaseki organizes the most smoothest, the freest and the most transparent transition process,
he has stepped on toes.
He will still have his days.
All right, because
his name will be
he stepped on toes.
Yeah,
all right. Chairman of the Ogun State Independent Electoral Commission, Babatunde Osibodu, says the commission has budgeted over 2 billion naira for the conduct of the November 16th council poll in the state. Osibodu said the commission planned over 1 billion naira for transportation on the election day, while more than 200 million naira will be spent to print the voter register from the Independent National Electoral Commission. He spoke on Tuesday in Abeokuta while featuring on the Media Parliament, an interactive program organized by the Nigerian Union of Journalists, Ogun Council. The chairman blamed the humongous budget on constant fuel price hike, saying the commission had reviewed its proposal for at least 6 times. He explained that the voter register cost the electoral body 15 million naira to print during the last council poll held in 2021, saying it will now cost over 200 million naira to print the same register for the 2024 election. The chairman said election day transportation bill, which was 200 million in 2021, will now go up to over 1 billion naira. He said he could not give the exact amount the election process will cost his commission, but the current budget is over 2 billion naira. Osibodu said 70 million naira has been generated by the commission through the charges collected from all the candidates. He described the amount as a drop in the ocean compared to the funds needed to conduct election. The chairman said 8 political parties will be participating in the November 16 election, out of which only 2 have submitted candidates for all the chairmanship and councillorship seats. Meanwhile, Osibodu has admitted that the state electoral commissions need reforms for optimal performance and conduct of credible elections. He said necessary reforms are the best options rather than the agitation for the transfer of the conduct of local government elections to the Independent Electoral Commission. Osibodu explained that while INEC struggles with the workload saddled on it, the local government elections will become a burden to it. He spoke during the same media parliament organized by the Nigerian Union of Journalists, Ogun State Council, held at the council secretariat in Abeokuta on Tuesday. Recalling the controversy surrounding the recently concluded Edo State elections, the chairman insisted that a devolution of power to the federating state was preferable to centralization. He said, "We do not want to go back to centralizing everything. We need to devolve powers to the federating state. We saw what happened in the Edo elections. I am not saying whether the right or the wrong person won, but we have seen the controversy that trailed the elections. Even with the controversy that trailed the 2023 elections, many people already said that INEC itself should be unbundled, that there is too much heavy load on it, and you now want to burden it with local government elections when it is still struggling with the one that it has been saddled with." He acknowledged that the local government election in itself are not flawless and emphasized the need for reform in a number of areas. He said, "The bathwater may be dirty, but the baby should not be thrown out with it. We can clean up the baby and make sure it looks better and feels better. We can reform the electoral system. I will be the first to admit that it is not perfect. And I will be the first to admit that there are several areas where we need reforms, and those reforms are possible. But I will not say local government elections should go back to INEC." Ugochukwu, two issues here. First is the 2 billion naira budget for local government elections in Ogun State. And then the second issue raised by the OCX chairman is why transfer CX to INEC? Why should INEC conduct local government election when INEC itself needs to be unbundled? I mean, why not push for reform of the CX? Two different issues, one story. What do you have to say to that?
In the first leg of the story, what caught my attention, it's that 8 political parties have shown interest to vie in the Ondo State or Ogun State
local government
elections. And then I want to congratulate the other parties. I think we have about 18 or 19 political parties in Nigeria. So I want to congratulate the other political parties that have not shown interest, you know, and because with what we are seeing in the conduct of local government elections so far, case study River State, where I'm domiciled. So there will be no need for a political party to, you know, drag the struggling average Nigerian politician at the local level to be spending the money or going about borrowing, running for campaign of an election. You know that at the end of the day, you will not even, the results might not even be announced. So I say kudos to those political parties in Ogun State for towing the line of wisdom. Then from the expose that the Ogun State Electoral Commission chairman has made public, I want to ask a rhetorical question. If they spend such a money to print, or if there are monies to be paid to INEC for the voter register to be printed, I want to ask that in River State that said they got the authentic register from INEC, how much did they pay? Was there a receipt where Rivers people told that certain amounts are being paid? Like as this year now, it will go about 1 billion or 200 million to print it, while in 2021 it was around 15 million. But this year, given the rise cost and the evolving economic realities, it is going to engulf around 200 million. So this raises a critical question in other states as to how much they made available to INEC, or how much did their
what was the budget of the
CX in order to capture this printing. It raises a very penitent question. So, and now we have already known that such things exist. INEC is not, after all, a Father Christmas, because you know the amount and the volume of papers that are involved, you know. So, and the remedial procedures and all that. So now he's now saying even the 2 billion they are dancing around is not even visible that it is going to, you know, it is going to be enough to conduct so election. So if I may say, if this particular elections is not happening because the federal government and because of this Supreme Court judgment that they are now being coerced and they are now being mandated and being held to the jugular to now conduct such an election. You know, to conduct such an election, you find out that OSEC that is spending about 2 billion naira, the OSEC that is spending about 2 billion, was it captured in their budget for the lifetime of 2024, as they have postponed it about 6 times? So was the money captured? And if it were captured, the River State budget, that is about the River State proposed budget for 2024, that was around 800 plus billion naira, we were not told that there was a money earmarked for the conduct of the elections. But look at a state that is working, is telling Nigerians that we have made our findings and we are finding out that to conduct these elections, it is going to gulp such amount of money. And if not that the federal government is now taking it as a priority in order to make sure that these local elections are conducted, for there to be 3 tiers of government in Nigeria. I would say that if states are not really ready for the elections, if they are not really ready for the elections, because of the amount of money we are talking about, that is, we go into frivolities, because we know at the end of the day, the governors will still appoint their star boys and paint it to our faces that they have conducted an election, which we saw in so many states, as has been alluded by the Senate, that it had been a sham all through. It had been a sham. It had been just an extension of appointments, because names are known before the elections are conducted, and they look at elections that will be conducted, there is no blow-to-blow announcement of results. There's no blow-to-blow announcement of how the parties fared and how many parties actually participated. Ogun State is even charitable to tell us that only 8 political parties have declared interest. But in other states, how many states participated? How did they fare? What were the void votes and the number of votes for which those who emerged? So the second leg of it is talking about the second leg of what he had, that why transferring the CX to INEC. If you ask me, I think what we had from the feelers available to us was that there will be another body to local government electoral commission being domiciled with the federal government. And my worries are this.
It's not yet fixed.
I know, but
they said,
okay,
the National Assembly was saying that CX will possibly be scrapped, and then either INEC takes over the duties of the CX, or a different body, the local government electoral commission, will be formed, but it will now be under the federal government. Yes, it will not be under. So there is a possibility that it will be still INEC.
Okay, for now.
Probably it might not be the local government electoral body. Okay. So the Senate, the House of the National Assembly are still dilly-dallying on that. Yes.
So if we go by some of the elections, even the recently concluded the off-season Edo State elections. Edo State elections that we just saw. Mm-hmm. It was nothing near perfect. It was nothing near perfect, just a particular state, and with the militarization and all the monies that were earmarked, and INEC had a lot of concentration on those states. At the end of the day, the shortfalls are even more than the percentage you could give INEC for a job well done. You know, we had civil society organizations, different bodies that monitor the election, almost came out with the same report. So if you're now moving the CX to the national body under INEC, I don't think is the best solution, because, like I've said when this issue came, we have a lot of infractions and a lot of interests we play out. The governor who controls the state might not be from the ruling party. The ministers that are appointed are from the ruling party at the center. You have minister for the head minister and have minister for states. You have ambassadors. You have senators and House of Representative member who will be, angling to, make political statements by making sure the influence who emerges in their different local governments, and which in turn will overheat the polity at the local level. Because this is Nigeria, let us not shy away from these truths. Where you see seemingly bloodless and less ruthless and carry-go local government elections, is because the state executives take charge and they dictate the pace of the piper. But if you allow it, it will definitely go so sour in Nigeria that local government elections will become a fight for balkanization of local governments. And at the end of the day, the anticipated democracy dividends, that is the yardstick for which the federal government and the National Assembly and the Supreme Court has made this particular pronouncement, will be lost at the end of the day. So I go with him.
When you say that, so far, have you seen states, local government polls so far being free and fair? You said yourself, you used Rivers State to cite an example, and you said yourself,
Yes.
that the chairman that emerged from the last local government elections, their names were known even before the local government elections happened. And in some instances, people were already calling them and saying, "Hello, chairman, we greet you." Before the elections, they were being called chairman. I mean, people who have not even contested yet. Some other persons are of the opinion that it was more of a selection and not an election.
Of course.
And the same thing appears to be recurrent even in other states across the board. You know, Abia State, the same thing, or your state, or your back in the ruling
even
party. The ruling party swept the entire 23 local governments. I can go on and mention all the local government elections we have been monitoring from Atlantic Television Network. It has always been all, it was just I think Rivers State and was it Abia State
River.
also that Cross River State. River State, one political party got
APP.
one, not APP, got one chairmanship seat and 4 councillorship seats. And in Cross River State, of course, the local government of Senator Akpabio got one. And you know the controversies that surrounded that particular election, and the fact that Senator Akpabio got one. People were saying it was a settlement between him and the governor. If not, the governor would have swept all. This is what it is. Now, if you say that if elections go back to the CX, to the federal INEC, or whatever federal body that will be commissioned, if elections go back to them, that democracy will be lost.
The dividends
of democracy will be lost. Now as it stands, are people enjoying the dividends of democracy in local government elections? At what point do people appoint or select or vote for their candidates at the primaries. Let's say, okay, internal party wranglings, they can do waiver, they can do substitution, but then the party brings out a candidate.
Yes.
But at what point do people get to fairly campaign? At what point do the candidates get to fairly campaign? At what point were they given fair playing ground? At what point do people come out to vote during elections? You would agree with me that even during these local government elections, the turnout usually is very, 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 very poor compared to that of general elections, because people already know that what is the need of coming out to vote when they have won. So why should I bring out? Why should I go? But presidential elections, general elections, regardless of however people feel about the activities of INEC, there is still that glimmer of hope. They want to still come out because there is a chance that their own might win. So they still exercise their franchise. But in local government elections, you could say it's different.
Yes.
You could say it's different.
Yes,
and in this instance, even when people cry out that these elections were shoddy or were not done right, they have to go to electoral tribunal.
Yes.
Set up by who?
By the government, by the state government.
By the state government. How can a state governor to pretend over a matter against him? Make it make sense to me. And having brought out these challenges and issues to the table, please explain to me how the people in this instance are enjoying dividends of democracy with elections being conducted by CX.
You know, the governors are the chief executives, and by extension, they dictate what happens around their states. And those who have stronger positions, it is now, from my own point of view, it is now left for the oppositions, as we have it in Rivers State today, to now, charge and hold the government accountable. The governor in power accountable to be able to, put more pressure on him to let the local governments work. Because as it is now,
you mean local governments work on the local government election work?
No, the local. Let's see what happens in local government elections. I've said it is selection.
We are dwelling on the elections now, not governance in local government.
The election itself.
So how are people enjoying the dividends of democracy when it's a selection and not an election?
I say that even the way it is now, it is less bloody. It is though there is no competition, there is no rivalry, there is the vibes. Probably
that's why it is not bloody.
The vibes that goes with politicking, because politics, I always say, is an interest-driven game. It's a game that you should come and and weigh your chances, and even people want to know what you can offer. People want to know the extent to which you can convince them. It is a mind-driven game. The politicians are known to play mind games to the electorate. But in this case, when it comes to state elections conducted by their different sects, those competitions, healthy rivalry is lost completely. What you see within the state or federal is because there is that healthy rivalry.
But you're saying in this instance that local government elections should still be domiciled with CX.
With reforms.
And you're saying that if it moves to federal government, that people will not enjoy the dividends of democracy. And I have pointed out to you clearly what has happened across board. In fact, the only governor in the history of Nigeria, to the best of my knowledge, that has conducted a local government elections that appear to be credible during his time was El-Rufai. Because other political parties, his party lost in that election. Other political parties, they lost some local governments.
Of course.
Other political parties, the election was more of electronic.
Yes.
It was clear, it was transparent, people were seeing it in real time. But here, I mean, across states,
what we have seen within
would you say the same thing? And so the question is, if people, the masses, are not actively involved in the election of local government chairmen, how then can you, Ifani, say that the same people who were disfranchised from participating in the election or emergence of their leaders at the local government level, they are enjoying dividends of democracy? Now, on another thought, you brought in, you also periscoped the INEC and the fact that now if it moves to federal, it also opens a larger door.
Yes.
I understand your concern from the angle of security.
Yes.
And I also understand your concern from the angle of big players at the national level who want their own candidates to emerge. Now, the thing about politics is doesn't it give it that room for that competition that is so needed at this point?
Which is what
let me give you an instance. Probably the president or the president's close friend or the president's son in this, might have an anointed that he wants to emerge at the local government level. The speaker of the Senate might have one. The House of Rep member may have one. Senators representing constituencies may have one. The governor have one. The House of Assembly members will have their own anointed and all of that. Now, these people have their anointed, all of them running on different political platforms.
Yes.
Now, engagement has started. This is where lobbying of the people will start.
Yes.
This is where you see the same activity.
Is the beauty.
But you're saying it's not okay. Hold on. Now, this is where internal party issues, this is where what chairmen become powerful.
Yes.
This is where the units and the wards are now noticed. You understand?
Yes,
this is where governance,
because
now this is local government, this is grassroots. Now, what happens at the end of the day is that the senators representing constituencies are forced to let constituency projects trickle down, because why would I vote for anointed when you have not done anything for me in my constituency? Now, the people at the federal level will now remember that in a space of 3 years, you will need the attention of the grassroots. And after 3 years, the next year, you will still need the attention of the same grassroots, because, I mean, you want your anointed to come in and you will want to also be re-elected at the end of the day. Now, what also happens is that other political parties become meaningfully engaged. Now, you see Labour Party wanting to, of course, bring in their own candidates. You see different persons of interest, vested interest coming up. So you actually see viable primaries at the party level. And whenever they have their substitutions and their waivers and somebody finally emerges, you now see other political parties also having the same. You will even see some disgruntled members, some sore losers move over to other political parties and give them life. And revive them, because now they are coming with their clout, they are coming with the blessings of whoever that is backing them. Like it or yes, this is Nigerian politics. It's peculiar in its own modus operandi. So I am looking at the concerns you have raised, and I'm looking at it from another perspective. Like, if these things are obtainable, perhaps that's where the concern of during elections proper, that's where your fear of security, ballot box snatching, killing, maiming, and all of that will take place. That is where the job of the police comes in. But before we get to that point, let us even count one. Shouldn't elections at the local government level be more keenly contested than Guba elections? Because this is where the people feel the heartbeat of the government.
Can I shock you?
Please shock me.
You know that, you see the way I've been listening keenly and
just like I've been listening keenly to you.
Yes.
Well. Yes.
You know, all these things you have painted is just the theoretical part of it, very beautiful and laudable. That is what politics and politicking should be. It is like a football match that shouldn't be played by one person. Politics is beautiful. I don't know why, you know, some people say politics is evil, politics is dirty, and the beauty of politics is what you, Laurentia, has laid down, which I have said. But in reality, because I am a realist, in reality, with the Nigerian setting, those things are not tenable.
What are the things that are not tenable?
The things that are not tenable is this. you have spoken laudably and how beautiful it will be for different stakeholders and different bourgeois and political shakers to have their candidates and anointed candidates. Lest I forget, there is one.
No, hold on. Let me clarify something. I am not saying, I'm not even applauding it.
I know, I'm coming
You
somewhere.
raised that concern,
And
that this is why you are very skeptical about having local government elections
move
to the federal. You said that because now it will move away from the states and from the domain of the state governors, which means that powers that be at the federal will now have interest, and local government elections will be balkanized.
And it will be heated.
And I now asked you a question about the selection process instead of election. Hold on.
Okay.
And you having answered that one also faulted it. I said, okay, let's now go back to the federal. You have a concern around this vested interest coming in. And I said, this vested interest, when they bring in their candidates, of course the governor, the state also has vested interest as well. They will bring in their own. Won't it open up the door to that politicking at the grassroots level? Won't it open up the door to the ward and the unit having the influence that they are ordinarily supposed to have at their local government level? I am looking at having these elections at the local government level come alive, regardless of whether the power moves out of the states or it moves to the federal. But let it be that at the end of the day, when political parties at their primaries are done with their political internal wranglings and whatever it is they do, and finally they have a flag bearer, that it is not a situation where other political parties are coming out to boycott because the state governor has selected that they don't have a fighting chance. Yes. But in this instance, because of the powers that be and some sole losers that may go to other mushroom parties and resuscitate and revive them in order to clinch that seat, you now see a tussle going on. Won't it revive? That's my question. I am not coming from, I am building on what you have said, and with what you have said, you're negating it. Now I'm looking at the possibility of, if it goes this way, don't you think it is more democratic than having the state governors impose their lists or their anointed on the people?
I want to puncture what you said.
Go ahead.
By now, where I was driving at is because holistically what we are looking at the end of the day, how do the rural populace test the dividends of democracy? Then that is where I started by all those vested interests as we know them in Nigeria. If they come in with all this well laid down political process and how it plays out to bring in candidates and all that, and monies will be flying left, right, and center, it will still at the end of the day stifle and deny the people the dividends of democracy.
Okay, go ahead.
Because at the end of the day, the monies that are meant for those particular local governments will be mortgaged by those people who
the powers that be.
That is where I'm coming.
Now, the same question, is it not applicable at the state level?
No, there's the state level, there are differences.
Hold on. Now, your concern is that if vested interests bring in these people and elections are done, these chairmen are bound to also make sure that the people that brought them in make profit out of the move of installing them as chairman. Hold on. Now, in elections at the state level, who told you, Ifeanyi, that this chairman they are anointed of some vested interest?
They are.
So what makes you think that this chairman who were anointed of certain vested interests at the state level and even at the federal level too?
Yes.
Will not protect the interests. Who told you that they will not protect what you are afraid of happening in federal is also happening at the state level?
So that leaves us where?
No, that leaves us to people enjoying the dividend of democracy. That leads us to, coming back to what I said, at the local government elections level, having a fair playing ground. If it is domiciled in the hand of one man, he that pays the piper dictates the tune. The governor appoints the chairman of SIEC. He is at liberty to hire and fire. What makes you think, however you reform it, however you reform CX, and they are still under the appointment, and they are still funded by the state government, what makes you think they will do the bidding of the person that did not install them? That's the thing.
Okay.
So now, if that is the case, if I Chukwu, what makes you think that CX will ever get it right? Because governors are hell-bent on having their structure, especially at the grassroots level, and the grassroots level is represented by the local government, chairmen and councillors.
As an opinion molder, what I will advocate is this. My advocacy for us to, before we begin to reform and think of a way out, to maximize the dividends of democracy trickling down to the local level, at the local level, is this. For me, it is at best what we are having now. Why am I saying what we are having now is because, like I said, the onus lies on those opposition political parties to begin to hold the governor accountable and play the role of opposition and not go to comatose. Like what
how do you hold the governor who has immunity accountable?
There is something. I'm driving somewhere. When governors have installed their stooge at the local governments, it is now a viable opposition that makes for the governor, because from the fight and the places that those people will be mortgaged from will be limited. Other than this flamboyancy and this long group of going through the federal and all that, what we have now is still best. If the governors of the states will be, that they needed opposition. The problem we are having in Nigeria is this: immediately an election is conducted, people begin to cross carpet for stomach infrastructure. We'll be looking for settlements. That is why in River State you have APDP, you have PD, AP, APP. These are the problems. If there is viable opposition in states,
in states that have viable opposition, in states that have viable opposition, and I mean there are states that have very strong viable oppositions, yet the ruling party in the state sweeps the entire local government elections. And to date, we have not heard that viable opposition was able to upturn the results of the local government elections. Tell me how many states. So it doesn't still boil down to you having a classroom theory. How do you fight a system that is set to protect itself? Elections are done. You were a loser in the election, and probably your rights were denied because you actually won, and you decide to go to election tribunal, local government election tribunal. And I asked you a question: who sets up the local government election tribunal? You answered the state government.
Yes.
Now, the elections, who did it favor? The state governments. Who pays the people seated at the state election tribunal? The state government. So you are telling me the state government will pretend over a matter against itself? Make it make sense to me. However, moving forward, we'll look at this story.
Yes, we need to rejig the constitution. All
right.
Because state, don't forget that it is not all cases that the federal government will win, and it is not, they will not at will remove the powers that are inherent in the constitution.
If you decide to go to a court, let's say the state tribunal, at the end of the day, you're not satisfied with the state tribunal, of course you're allowed to go to court. And in this instance, you will go to a state high court.
No, what I'm trying to say,
and I don't want to go into the issue of state high courts.
I'm talking about how the state assemblies make laws that govern the states. There are some certain rights that are inherent upon the state, given the constitutional mandate. So it is not the federal government cannot just come and pull it off without rejigging the constitution. And that is why you see the National Assembly is trying to tinker it. That's why they are not forwarding it, because it needs a lot of tinkering before that sees the light of the day.
This is a very vast topic, because I mean, if you go back to it, it has a lot. We'll still go back to the Supreme Court judgment and now look at why in the first place was the jack removed. we'll now look at how draconian the state governors have been with regards to states, local government funds. So, I mean, there is a lot to look at. But then, let's go on to Benue State. Benue State Governor Hyacinth Alia on Wednesday suspended the State Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice and Public Order, Fidelis Mien. The commissioner was suspended for joining the suit challenging the legality of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission without informing his principal. The Apex Court had on Tuesday reserved judgment on the suit filed by 19 states of the Federation. However, 3 out of the 19 states challenging the constitutionality of the laws that establish the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission were reported to have withdrawn from the suit. The 3 states, according to the reports, are Anambra, 9th plaintiff, Adamawa State, 16th plaintiff, and Ebonyi State, 18th plaintiff, separately submitted applications for withdrawal before the court. The Attorney General of Anambra State, Professor Sylvia Ifemeje, informed the court that she wishes to withdraw from the suit, having filed a motion for withdrawal on October 20. Similarly, the Attorney General of Ebonyi State, Ikenna Widago, stated, "My lord, I filed a notice of withdrawal dated and filed on October 21. My lords, we pray this honorable court strikes out the name of the 18th plaintiff." However, Alia, who was taken aback that the state joined other states to challenge the legality of the anti-corruption agency, was said to have ordered the suspension of the Attorney General. Confirming the suspension to a correspondent, the governor's spokesperson, Kula Teso, said, "It's true, His Excellency today suspended the State Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice and Public Order for joining the suit challenging the legality of EFCC without informing the governor." If I go over to you, what do you make of this story?
I mean, I applaud Father Governor Alia of Benue State. This is what it means to take charge. This is what it means to be in control. This is what it means to govern. Because some of the things that will happen in the states, it goes to show you how appointees and those who are around the corridors of power, tends to abuse that opportunity given to them. How will a state law officer who is being appointed because of his legal acumen and his don't forget that those appointments goes through because of the way you're able to work for the party in power and for your being so close to the governor or those who have the deep pocket of financing, they said elections. So a lot of things goes into appointments and a lot of interests are taken into account. So you find yourself in that position. Perhaps he is not Father Alia that that brought him. He must have been brought by one of the political bourgeois, and most of them are moves. They begin to report and play allegiance to the person who recommended them. This is what some governors are suffering within your cabinet. It is not too long, although Nigerians are short-sighted when it comes to history. The former president of Nigeria, Goodluck Jonathan, came out and cried that even among his cabinet members, that informations leak, goes to the terrorist group Boko Haram, and the information flies away, even after the meeting. And there was something that also bothers the Nigerian government then. Most of the things that are discussed in the closet of among the government officials filters in, gets into the hands of the literally enemies of the state to be used against them, even before before a particular press release will be made. So this is what I'm thinking in my mind, that for this particular chief law officer of Benue State not to have taken into account the feelings and the advice of his principal means that he is paying allegiance to the person that recommended him for this
Right.
appointment. So, be that as it may, Father Elia has shown that he has nothing to hide. His doors are open for, either EFCC or maybe those who are joined us to that particular suit. But I want to make it sound this way. Any state government that has gone ahead to institute a case against the judgment of the Supreme Court is not really that particular state government is inimical to the progress of the people at the local level. Right. Because the mindset, be it right or wrong, the mindset of the federal government, what the Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration have done is to make sure that the local governments get what is due to them for the development of that place. And another thing is that they should also put a mechanism in motion to monitor how those monies are being used. They should follow the money to make sure that those local government chairmen that have no immunity will not become lords on their own and begin to misappropriate those funds for which it is meant for the development of those local areas. So I say kudos to Father Elia for what he has done.
All right.
He has shown leadership and courage.
All right. People's Democratic Party announced late on Tuesday that its planned National Executive Committee meeting, originally scheduled for Thursday, has been postponed to 28 November 2024. The move is to allow the party to focus on strategizing and mobilizing for the upcoming Ondo State governorship election, which is set to take place on 16 November 2024. This was disclosed in a communique issued by the party's Governors Forum under the leadership of Bauchi State Governor Bala Mohammed, following a consultative meeting with various party organs. The meeting also included the PDP National Working Committee, the National Assembly leadership of the party caucus, and the Forum of former PDP governors. The PDP Governors Forum held an extended meeting at the Bauchi State Governors Lodge, Tatari Ali House, Asokoro, on Tuesday, 22nd October 2024. The communique partly read, rising from the consultative meeting of the various organs of the People's Democratic Party, the party has resolved that the National Executive Committee meeting, originally slated for October 24, 2024, has been rescheduled to November 28, 2024. The postponement is to ensure that the party approaches the forthcoming Ondo gubernatorial elections on 16 November 2024 with the unity and strength required to unseat the struggling All Progressive Congress government in the state. Reiterating the need for unity in the face of efforts by detractors to divide the party, the meeting called on all members to shun divisive utterances that could undermine ongoing efforts to strengthen the party and effectively position it as the country's main opposition in preparation for the 2027 elections. Ugochukwu, you were nodding your head vigorously while I was reading. So if I may ask, what holds your interest the most in this story?
I can beat my chest. I count myself as one of the political prophets.
Because you said it on my show, yes, that it was going to be postponed. On
Sunday, I said it, and with all sense of humility and with all sense of decency and with all sense of finality. I said it that it will not hold.
Now, what are your reasons? What political, first of all, let me ask you. Yes. Now, I want to understand the political undertone to this. I want to understand the maneuvers, because we have seen moves being made. Omar Damagum paying a visit to the PDP Governors Forum, Bala Mohammed with the Northwest bigwigs and governors at Bauchi State. They went to visit him, and Bala Mohammed came out to say there is no faction, we are all united. And then after that, there was this Nicodemus maneuver to get the court to give the Bala Mohammed faction the power to convene a NEC meeting, and that did not work. I want to understand the moves behind the scene and what made you come to that conclusion, because you were spot on this one, Ugochukwu.
I've always been spot on. I told you that APC will carry the day in Edo State. Even when I was not in Nigeria, I was put on a live television where I told them that Obaseki was going to win when he cross-parted from APC to PDP. Even when people were saying, don't I see how his commissioners and everybody was leaving him in droves, I said Obaseki will come back. So what happened here is that the PDP Bala Mohammed camp could not get the court to override the powers of the NEC. And as a political watcher and somebody who has been following the trends in politics, the Nyesom Wike angle, PDP has, I watched a program, an interview granted by the Deputy Publicity Secretary of PDP last night, where he almost all the things I've said. I told you that the PDP, those who are shouting, use the sledgehammer on Wike, are bereft of ideas and what the main issues are. What killed the whole thing is that they knew. PDP remembered what happened, how they lost 5 governors to the new PDP before the 2015 general elections. They have now realized that they did not toe the line of history, which some people told them. They now jettisoned another 5G governors in 2023. What happened? You can't have a divided house and go to war and win. Even the Bible says it, the good books. So what happens here is that they have seen clearly the handwriting of the war. And I am happy that most of them went to that caucus meeting, from what I heard yesterday, and speak what I've been saying here. I'm not a member. He said that they pointed out that, are you people calling on Nyesom Wike? But that infraction started from the hanky-panky played by Atiku and the Yoshi Ayo.
During the 2023 elections.
That is, and now they have realized it. That is the only thing I have to say. The Nyesom Wike have been vindicated. Nyesom Wike and his brother, former governors, have been vindicated, and that is why you see at that particular meeting, only 5 governors, they have 13 governors. At the time, the Bala Mohammed camp was breeding heavily with 9 governors. When Sheima Kinda and the Fintri and other people went
and then
to align with
Obaseki lost, and those states.
I told you that immediately Obaseki lost. I told you it was on this show that
most
I said
of the governors became silent.
They're silent. So even our own Fobara was there yesterday. There were only 5 people who attended that meeting at Asokoro Villa of the liaison office, liaison house of Bauchi State, where the meeting was held. Only 5 governors attended. At the end of the day, they saw clearly that they couldn't even garner a vote to carry out what they want to do. So I am very happy and I am so grateful that many people has seen the handwritings on there, and they have seen the call of reason, for which Nyesom Wike has stood his ground and said that the right thing was, they recall that those infractions should have been corrected. What was it that Atiku would have not told Anayu to go? Because he reminded us, I mean, the national publicity, the deputy national publicity chairman of PDP said that they recall that 2 weeks before the election, Nyesom Wike was saying, though I was not choosing as the vice, I have lost the primary, but one thing stands out, that once Iyorchia Ayo steps out, that he will go to the war front with the PDP. And the man clearly stated that, like Nyesom Wike hate him, the vibes he would have brought to that particular campaign, well, PDP lost it. And there is no way PDP would have made an inroad in that particular election. So I am vindicated, and the Nyesom Wike's camp is vindicated, and the PDP, they are just using Ondo State election to shy away from the reality. But the reality is what I've told you.
But when you say they are using the Ondo State election to shy away from reality, one might say that that is actually a very wise decision. Because now, if that NEC meeting should hold, the outcome of that NEC meeting
will divide the house.
They might divide, yes. PDP might be further balkanized at this point because there are vested interests.
Of course.
Do not forget, Atiku's interest is there. Nyesom Wike, of course, has an interest. Sheyi Makinde has an interest. Bala Mohammed has an interest. Most of these people have an interest Probably because they want to vie for the presidential election in 2027, or they have an interest to be the national chairman of the PDP, or they have an interest to have their own, their appointed or their anointed, excuse me, in this instance, to take probably an elective position in the neck. Now, when you look at it, some persons have an interest because of their 2027 ambition at the state level, the 2027 Guba ambition. And you know, the national can also influence the outcome of elections in the state.
Yeah, of course.
So a lot of interests are making people be on this camp or on the other camp. So probably if NEC meeting had happened as it was scheduled, you know, that NEC meeting probably would have further balkanized the PDP. And if PDP is balkanized at this point, tell me how it will pan out with regards to the Edo State election. There was no, considering that Ondo State is a ruling state, number one.
By APC.
By APC, a ruling state in APC, and also has the federal might. So what is the card that PDP can play at this point in Ondo State? Have you seen, one might say, okay, the decision of the NEC in this instance is wise, because, I mean, the postponement is not sine die.
Can I come in?
Yes.
You know, let's say that what you saw Ondo State is just damage control. It's just for the press. I'm just telling you that.
Are you saying that the November 28th, the November 28th scheduled NEC meeting will be postponed again?
Of course. It will get to
I'll remind you of this.
Let me tell you.
All right,
it is only for the press, just for those who are not following, you know, bomber to bomber, according to the language of Nigerians, what is happening in the PDP. PDP cannot afford to sleep deep down again, because remember that even the person who is leading the war front in Ondo State is Shea Makinde. And if you see that the camp of Nyesom Wike has started swelling, and recall that those who are making this noise, the Bala Mohammed and the Ugochi Nyerikenga them, what was their scorecard in Edo State? These are people who cannot, I always say, they can't win a local government election. They can't win a local government election. The governor of Rivers State, Fubara, is also in the camp of Bala Mohammed. How did they fare in even a local government election in Rivers State? The Ugo Chinyere, who came to Rivers State and is now making noise and calling out Nyesom Wike should be suspended. Nyesom Wike should. You know, when I even stopped taking him for a serious is this. After the other meeting, the first NEC meeting that held, where he probably attended the first NEC as one of the party caucus, being privileged as a member of the House of Representatives, he freezed. He couldn't have even seen a Nyesom Wike very well from where he was sitting. I always say it. So when they now went to war without Nyesom Wike in Edo State, what was the outcome? They have seen the handwriting clearly. Those people now, I'm not saying that they are going to make any headway in Ondo State.
Okay.
Because the coming together now is already belated. For them to unite before they will regroup from what they achieved in Edo State. We see how it goes from now on.
Fingers crossed. Thank you so much, Ugochukwu, for coming on Open Conversation. I know you want to go on and on, but we are out of time. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you, Nigerians.
And thank you, our viewers. This is where we wrap it up on this episode of Open Conversation. We are open for advert placements, bookings, and commercials. You can connect with us on all our ATN socials, Facebook and YouTube, Atlantic Television Network, Instagram and TikTok, Atlantic TV Network 1, and on Twitter, Atlantic TV Net. Watch us live on our website, www.atlanticnetwork.tv. Do not forget, peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Thank you for watching. I am Ogu Laurentia. Transition News comes up next. Do not go away.
Which I
No matter how tough the challenge, how high the obstacles, we always overcome.
What Nigerians believe now is not about the government. Who can come and salvage us from where we are?
Representing people, Mr. President, my people.